Juliet Montgomery?
Yes, may I help you with something?
You're under arrest for the attempted murder of Madame Laura Dupre.
What? But how can that be?
Come with me, Miss Montgomery. We'll need to question you at the station.
Addie, I'm home. Addie?
She must still be out at her hairdressing appointment. I'm glad we're alone because I wanted to talk to you about something.
Yes, Bill, I know. I told you I'm doing my best to try and find the flower shop burglar.
No, for once, this isn't about him. This is about you.
You want to talk about me? What about me?
You can play dumb and deflect all you like with everyone else around you, but it won't work with me. I know exactly what you're thinking, and you know exactly what I'm going to say.
You want to talk about how we did on this case?
Yes, that's exactly right. Have you already forgotten the old days, Miles? Before I died, we were solving cases like nobody's business. You were one of the best detectives on the force. But ever since you started taking that soporific, your mind hasn't been as sharp as before. If you're serious about taking on more complex cases, you need to listen to Adelaide and stop taking it. It's already had a negative effect on your performance.
What are you talking about? We discovered it was Juliet who was to blame.
Yes, but if you were working at your full abilities, you'd have come to that conclusion much sooner.
If I stop taking it, you won't let me sleep through the night. Nothing will change.
Well, things would change if you found you-know-who.
I thought you said we weren't going to talk about that right now.
Yeah, well, I say a lot of things.
An understatement if ever there was one. Can't you just keep quiet without me having to take something?
Afraid not, old friend. That's just not who I am or how this works.
If you keep me up all night, I'll go crazy. Things have been hard enough as it is. And if, God forbid, Adelaide were ever to find out about...
Hello, Miles. Is there someone else here? I thought I heard you talking just now.
Fantastic. The jig is up. And here I thought we were doing so well, too.
No, I was just going over the case. Thinking aloud, you see.
Ah, of course.
How was your appointment?
Mrs. Lefebvre was her usual bossy and overly picky self, but she gave me a very generous tip.
That's good.
So I stopped by the shop on the way home and bought a new deck of cards.
Excellent. Shall we have a few rounds of écarté? I believe you demanded a rematch last time we played.
Yes, that would be nice.
Well, you certainly managed to dodge that bullet. I only wish I could say the same.
Oh, shut up. Ich bin mir ziemlich sicher, sie war es nicht. Ich bin mir ziemlich sicher, das war jemand anderes. Und ich habe richtig
And it
Scheiße
says here
gebaut.
they still don't know what caused that explosion.
I guarantee you it was sabotage. Those Redites have been causing a lot of trouble lately.
Is that the group of anti-steam tech radicals?
The very same.
Why Redites, though?
They're named after some fellow named Jonathan Red, apparently the one who began the whole anti-steam movement. It's really a rather stupid name, if you ask me. And uncreative, to boot.
Well, what would you call them then?
Redditors.
Perhaps something like the League for the Preservation of Blowing Things Up?
A bit long, but it does get the point across. Perhaps you'd best stick with the detecting, dearest. Your nomenclature needs a bit of work.
Well, I think it's about time I get ready for bed.
All right, Miles, if you must.
Didn't I give you two that clock as a wedding present? Who could that be at this time of night?
Good question. But Adelaide can handle it for now. I need to take my medicine.
You certainly have your priorities in order. Go on then. Get that bottle of rat piss out of your nightstand and let's get this over with.
Addie can handle whoever's at the door. I need to take my medicine. Addie can...
Oh nein, das wird doch
Oh,
nur
when you
dazu...
say it's time for a change of clothes, Miles, you've been wearing...
So?
Right. Brooding detective in a long black coat.
What are you talking about, Bill?
Never mind.
Wenn ich mir jetzt die Drogen reinpfeife und mich ins Bett lege, dann wird sie doch garantiert kalt gemacht oder entführt oder so eine Scheiße. Alter, das weiß doch jeder, dass sowas passiert. Junge, raus da! Oh, for fuck's sake.
Ugh, tastes like the devil's sweat.
You could just stop taking it, you know.
Bill, now is not the time to...
Miles, could you come back out here, please?
Be right there, dearest. Who was that at the door?
A late-night courier. You've got a message from Upton.
Fordham. In diesem Fall sieht der letzte einfachst aus. Treffen Sie mich umgehend im Ruin Kaffeehaus. Es ist dringend. C. Upton.
Seems this case is rather urgent. She wants me to meet her as soon as possible.
But didn't you just take your soporific? Are you going to be all right to go?
It won't kick in for another hour or so. Should be plenty of time.
All right, I'm going to bed then. Good luck, dear.
Good night, Addie.
Oh, cool. Also, als positive Note, unsere Frau wurde nicht ermordet. Dafür pennen wir heute Nacht irgendwo in der Gosse. Oh, und jetzt haben die beiden Typen das Ghost Syndrome.
Hello, Upton.
I'm glad you came, Fordham. Sorry for disturbing you this late.
Shouldn't a respectable young lady
Hey,
like you
kinda
be in bed
spoiler.
by now?
Only if you want to add boring to your list of adjectives.
So, what do you got for me?
An infant kidnapping in Lyon. The report came in tonight just before my shift ended. The family wants to keep the investigation very low-key. They're afraid if word gets out, they'll have all sorts of ne'er-do-wells making false ransom claims. That's why I suggested they let you investigate first. Head over to 45 Belcourt Street. That's the home of Malcolm and Miriam Harris, the parents of the kidnapped boy.
Harris? As in Harris Construction Company?
The very same, owned by Malcolm's father, no less. Now you see why they wanted to keep this out of the public eye.
Indeed. If they manage to get a new transatlantic airship off the ground, it'll be an aura mine. I can see why they'd make an easy target. Don't worry, Upton. I'll get the kid back before you can say hot toddy.
Hot toddy. I think you're losing your touch, Fordham.
And I think you've lost your joke book. Try some new material for a change, would you?
Right. Good luck on your investigation. Come see me again once you figured things out, or if you just need to talk. I'll be here all day tomorrow as well, so feel free to stop by.
Oder verkacken den...
Mr. Miles Fordham is here to see you, sir.
Very good, Mr. Havelock. Send him up.
Yes, sir.
Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Fordham. I'm Malcolm Harris.
I'm terribly sorry to hear about what's happened, Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Fordham. You were very highly recommended by Miss Upton. She said you'd be able to solve this faster and more discreetly than the police. I admit it's a rather unorthodox approach, but we're desperate.
I understand. I'll do all I can to find the kidnapper and bring your son back unharmed.
If you'd like to examine the nursery, it's just through that door to the left. I'll ask you to please try and keep quiet as I just sent my wife to bed. Her nerves are rather shot, you see.
Yes, of course.
I know the hand and waistcoat pose is supposed to look stately, but to me it always looks like the person is scratching themselves.
Ihr wird glübste, warum sie die Hand da drin
She
haben.
looks like she's up to something. I wouldn't get too close, Miles. That vase is probably worth more than your entire building. It's nice to see that tea is still served here, even in times of tragedy. I'm sure the only location the Harrises care about is wherever they are at any given moment. The Harris family certainly has a nice view from which to look down upon the world. I wonder if they use the balcony to give speeches to the gardeners. Be careful not to cut yourself, Miles. I don't think the Harris family has ever seen blood that isn't blue. Interesting. This fabric looks as though it came from a garment of some kind.
Huh. There's a small emblem sewn onto the side of this piece of fabric. It just says SS.
Somebody's initials, maybe? Probably won't be another year or so before the child gets any practical use out of those blocks beyond putting them in his mouth. It looks rather flimsy. Let's not try sitting on it. Look, you can see the balcony extends all the way around the side of the manor.
That would make it rather easy for someone to access this window from the outside.
No evidence of what was used to smash the glass, though.
Oh dear.
Ah, wonderful. The soporific has started working. Well done, Fordham. Now how are you supposed to... What's the word I'm looking for? Instigate? Interrogate? I just had it on the tip of my tongue.
Perhaps it's time to call it a night.
To sleep. A chance to dream. Quiet. 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 I am fading. I am fading. That's interesting. But sleep is more interesting.
Oh Gott, ich muss doch jetzt nicht in diesem Zustand in das Schlafzimmer laufen. Oh
So peaceful, so quiet, so comfortable.
Gott, nein, das kann ich nicht bringen, das...
I don't know what to say to that. Quiet. Quiet. No talking now. He'll know it's all wrong.
Well, Mr. Harris, I believe I've done all I can for right now.
Did you find anything?
Yes, I believe I have some leads I can pursue. But the most important thing to do in cases like this is wait to hear from the kidnappers. I'll be back tomorrow morning to continue my investigation and ask you and your wife some questions once you've had time to calm down a bit. In the meantime, I suggest you stay here and get some sleep. We'll all need it.
Miles, wake up. It's nearly noon.
Ah, so it is.
Why didn't you come to bed when you got home last night?
It was late. I didn't want to disturb you.
So what was so urgent about the case Upton sent you?
I'm trying to track a kidnapped child.
Oh my goodness. That's awful.
Yes, the pressure's on, but I think I should be able to crack it.
Assuming you actually managed to get anything done at the Harris Manor today.
Well, let me know if there's anything I can do to help. Also, we've got company. Mrs. Delacroix is having her hair done here today, so please...
You mean I'm not all ready?
At least do something about your hair. I do have a reputation to maintain after all.
What's wrong with my hair?
Do you really want me to answer that? We'll be here all day.
Gott, das wird so... Wenn das
It's
so richtig-
admirable.
Wir werden das so dermaßen verkacken.
And then he said, "Oh, hello there. I don't believe we've met."
Mrs. Delacroix, this is my husband, Miles. Miles, this is Mrs. Delacroix.
Pleasure to meet you, madam.
Likewise, young man. Pleasure.
Is everything all right, Mrs. Delacroix?
Oh, yes, everything's fine. It's just that... Well, you weren't what I was expecting, is all.
Keep your head, Miles. She may be a close-minded idiot, but she's just an old lady.
You mean the portrait over the fireplace didn't clue you in?
Now then, Mrs. Delacroix, what was it that you were telling me about Mr. Delacroix and his dogs?
Oh, yes. So, Harold came in and said...
Impressive. She got off pretty easy. I was expecting a repeat of the Parsons incident. You should give Adelaide a kiss on the way out, though, just to make the old bat feel extra uncomfortable.
Addie?
Not right now, Miles. I'm busy. We can talk once I finish with Mrs. Delacroix.
Yeah.
Goodbye, dearest.
I look forward to your return, my love.
Can we talk?
Not right now, Fordham. Time is of the essence. Come back and see me when you've made some progress on this thing. Your head start on the police will only last so long.
Remind me, Miles, how is finding some rich people's kidnapped baby going to help us track down the flower shop burglar?
It's possible we might find a lead to the burglar during the course of this investigation.
Really, Miles? Do you really believe that?
Anything's possible, Bill. You remember how many times we encountered seemingly trivial matters which turned out to be important later on?
Well, if you plan on solving this case, you'll need your full wits about you.
What are you implying?
I'm not implying. I'm flat out telling you. You need to stop taking that soporific. Adelaide has been trying to get you to stop for months, and Upton already suspects something is amiss. Not to mention your little episode last night. Trust me, no one is going to want to hire the dullard detective.
Clever. Did you come up with that one all by yourself?
What are you going to do when the cases stop coming in? How long before you get put away in Riverview?
If I do get locked away, it'll be your fault.
Which is exactly why you need to get back to your normal routine so you can find the burglar.
All right, fine. I'll stop. But if you keep me awake at night, so help me.
Don't worry. I'm sure you'll find a way to cope. You were always good at that. Well, I'm glad that's settled then. I knew you'd see things my way eventually.
It's not as though you gave me much of a choice.
In time, you'll thank me. Probably not before the withdrawal hits, though.
Don't make me change my mind on this, Bill.
Mr. Fordham, you're back. Allow me to introduce my wife, Miriam.
Hello.
A pleasure, Mrs. Harris. I wish we could have met under better circumstances, but I assure you I'm doing all I can to find your son.
Thank you, Mr. Fordham.
Mr. Harris, has there been any communication from the kidnapper?
None at all.
Well, I'll have another look around, if you don't mind.
Miles, didn't you notice something a bit strange about the Harrises?
Quite a few things, actually. What are you referring to?
Their son was just kidnapped, yet they're each on their own side of the sitting room. Not comforting each other, not crying together. Nothing.
They're stuck-up rich people. Not exactly the type to show emotion.
Miles, you know I'm the most cynical person there is when it comes to their type. This goes deeper than saving face.
Oh, fuck
There's
it.
something going on between them. I think you should find out what. My friend Bunny. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want a giant imaginary rabbit for a friend.
Warum nicht?
Bear's picnic. Something about a group of giant human-like bears eating together in the woods is slightly unsettling.
Wär's dir lieber, wenn sie das in deinem Vorgarten machen würden?
A steam-powered bottle warmer. Certainly beats having to do it in the fireplace. Or in the case of my parents, over a barrel fire. Some sort of fuzzy animal wearing a waistcoat. Charming. Doesn't look very comfortable. Whoever sits here must end up with a sore backside after a while. That's odd. Why is there a loose button in the crib? Yeah, I'm no expert on children, but it seems like it would be dangerous to have around an infant. If only the flower shop burglar was as easy to find as this clue was. Nice mobile. Custom made, too. There'll be no mistaking what family this child comes from. Yeah, the kidnapper left the child's blanket behind. There doesn't appear to be any trace of the silver spoon, though. Look at that. The kid has a toy chest. My sister and I used to have to keep our toys buried in the backyard. Of course, that is because the only toys we had were dead rats.
Er scheint eine wahrlich glückliche Kindheit gehabt zu haben.
Probably won't be another... Be careful not to cut yourself. Look, you can see the balcony No way. The Harris family certainly has a nice view from which to look down upon the world. I wonder if... I know the hand and waistcoat post... Fancy. Some poor servant's probably gonna get a flogging for leaving it in here, though.
Und es steht da mit Absicht für eine etwas ungeplante Verwendung.
Who in their right mind would need that many drawers?
Let's see what we have here. A very poorly written letter addressed to Mr. Harris.
I don't suppose it's a letter of admiration.
On the contrary, the author seems quite upset.
Mr. Harris, hier ist eine wöchentliche Erinnerung zu wissen, wie arg ich dich hasse. Wegen dich ist meine Frau tot. Meine Frau war wundervoll Frau und du hast sie mir genommen. Ich hoffe, dich geht es genauso schlimm wie mich. Arthur Devons. Oh Mann.
Wardrobes are usually always full of wonderfully dark secrets. It looks like a pile of women's clothes. Must belong to Mrs. Harris. Oh, another four-poster. The Harris family certainly makes no secret of their wealth.
Ja, als ob das bisschen Holz und Stoff mehr jetzt so den Preisunterschied machen. Das kann eigentlich nicht sein.
I have some questions for you if you're up to answering them, Mrs. Harris.
I'll try my best, Mr. Fordham.
Tell me what you know about your son's kidnapping.
Oh, my poor baby!
Mrs. Harris, I know this is difficult, but I need as much information as you can give me so I can bring your son back.
Yes, you're right. I have to stay strong. For Charles. It happened sometime between 6 and 8 last night, I think. Both my husband and I had gone out. Charles was in the care of his nanny, Mrs. Davis. I arrived home first, around 8:30, and that's when I found the scene in the nursery, as it was.
And what was it you found?
Mrs. Davis, unconscious in her chair, the broken window, and Charles missing from his crib. Malcolm arrived home shortly afterwards, around 9, and then immediately sent our butler, Mr. Havelock, to notify the police. We stayed up waiting for any contact from the kidnappers, but there was nothing.
You said you arrived home first. Where were you last night?
Oh, I was visiting with some of my friends. We gathered at one of their homes for a concert.
I see. And your husband?
He was at the social club with his friends as well, I believe.
Wait a minute. I know this attitude all too well. This woman is hiding something. Most likely from her husband. I doubt it's voices from beyond the grave, so the question is, what's her secret?
What can you tell me about Mrs. Davis?
Well, she's worked for us since Charles was born, a little over 6 months ago.
How did you come to employ her?
Malcolm's mother had a friend whose daughter she used to care for. She came highly recommended. We've never had any problems with her. She's always been a dream.
Where is she now?
In her room, I would guess. With Charles missing, there's little for her to do.
Where might I find her room?
There's a small building just around the back of the manor. Hers is the fourth door from the left.
Can you think of any reason why your son would be a target for kidnapping?
It could be that someone wants our money, or some lunatic who's angry about the new airship. My husband's an investor, and my father-in-law owns the company building it, you see. I just don't know, Mr. Fordham. Frankly, the fact that something like this could even happen is just terrifying.
I found this bit of torn fabric by the broken window. Do you know anything about it?
No, I've never seen it before. Do you think it was left by the kidnapper?
Perhaps. Did the initials SS mean anything to you?
No, I can't think of anyone or anything I know with those initials.
Steven Spielberg. Bum bum bum.
Tell me about your son.
Charles is our only child. He's such a good boy. Never makes a fuss. Always very sweet. Oh, Charles, you must be so frightened out there without your mother. Oh, please, Mr. Fordham. You have to bring him home.
I'll do my best. I found this button in your son's crib. Does it look familiar at all?
No, I don't recognize it. It looks like it came from some cheap coat. Is that what the ruffian who took my baby was wearing?
That's what I'm trying to determine. Tell me a bit about yourself, Mrs. Harris.
Mr. Fordham, my son has... What could I possibly tell you that would make any difference?
I suppose you're right, Mrs. Harris. That's all for now.
Very well.
Dann gib mir halt nicht alle Informationen. Es ist dein Kind und nicht meins.
I have some questions for you, Mr. Harris.
Yes, of course.
Tell me everything you can about the kidnapping.
I don't know much. I was out last night while it happened.
Where had you been previously?
I was out with friends. My wife can verify the time I arrived home.
It seems hiding something from your spouse is an activity both Harrises partake in.
Die vögeln wahrscheinlich beide fremd.
I found this letter in your bedroom. What can you tell me about it?
You went through our things?
I'm a private investigator, Mr. Harris. It's part of my job.
Of all the insolence!
You're upset, I know, but do you want me to find your son or don't you?
Yes, of course I do. That letter was sent to me by mistake. It was written to my father. Well, if you can even call that writing.
Have I ever mentioned how much I hate rich people? Because I really hate rich people.
Your father? Doesn't he own the company building the new airship?
Yes, that's right. He's been receiving many letters just like that one since the Lygia disaster. But that Devons fellow in particular has sent one every week, along with a bag of chicken bones and dust.
How peculiar.
Not only that, he leads a daily protest in front of the construction yard where the HMS Lenore is being built, trying to halt production. My God! How did I not see this before?
See what?
Devons! He has a grudge against this family because of what happened with the Lygia. I'd put money on him being involved with the kidnapping somehow, as a form of retaliation.
I'll just have to speak with Mr. Devons and see for myself. I found this bit of torn fabric by the broken window. Do you know anything about it?
Looks like it came from a piece of clothing. Possibly a jacket.
Did the initials SS mean anything to you?
Maybe? I can't really say. You'll have to excuse me, Mr. Fordham. I've got quite a lot on my mind right now. If I can think of anything, I'll be sure to let you know.
Tell me about your son.
Charles is a good boy. Very quiet. Miriam had wanted a child almost from the moment we married. You know how women are when they have their hearts set on something. I saw no need to rush, but...
Nice to know you're not the only one. Hey, Miles.
The first 2 times Miriam was with child, she suffered some unfortunate accidents. She was devastated, as you can imagine. So when Charles finally came along, he turned out to be quite a blessing. I can't imagine what sort of depraved madman would take him from us like this. You must find him, Mr. Fordham.
I intend to, Mr. Harris. Tell me about yourself.
There isn't much to tell, really. My life has been fairly well publicized in the newspapers.
Let's pretend for a moment that I skip over the society pages.
Well, I'm an investor. My father Clyde runs Harris Construction Company, which I will someday inherit. Any other details about me are fairly trivial nonsense, I think.
I found this button in your son's crib. Does it look familiar at all?
No, not at all. Do you think the kidnapper might have left it behind?
It's a distinct possibility. How goes the construction of the new airship?
There have been some complications, but nothing we can't handle.
Could you be a bit more specific?
Well, I already told you about the trouble with protesters at the yard, and we're blocked pending Royal Maverick's review of the safety regulations for the prototype etheric diffusion engines. Agitators and red tape aside, we should still be on schedule to have the Lenore finished and in the air by the end of the year. But really, Mr. Fordham, what the deuce does this have to do with finding Charles?
He has a point, you know.
Those are all the questions I had for now.
All right.